Have you ever felt like you don't quite belong? Like the world is running on one frequency, but your mind is tuned into something else entirely? Most people dismiss that feeling. They bury it under school deadlines, corporate meetings, or endless social media scrolling. But what if that quiet dissonance, the sense that you're somehow different, isn't a flaw? What if it's a sign that you belong to one of the rarest personality types in existence? Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who shaped much of modern psychology, once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege, though, is denied to most people. Because from the moment we're born, the world doesn't want us to discover our uniqueness. It wants us to conform. Think about it. School doesn't ask you who you are. It teaches you how to fit into a system. Work doesn't reward originality. It rewards obedience. Even relationships, friendships, dating, marriage, so often reward the mask you wear, not the person underneath. And here's the hidden truth. If you really do have a rare personality type, you've probably been punished for it your entire life. You've been called too intense, too sensitive, too detached, or too difficult. Society frames your difference as a weakness, but Jung's psychology flips that completely. It shows us that your strangeness is actually your power. That's why this video matters. Because if you're still watching, chances are you've always felt that invisible tension, the sense that you're not built for the shallow script society hands you. And maybe deep down, you've been waiting for someone to finally say it out loud. You're not broken, you're rare. But here's where it gets tricky. Rare personalities aren't celebrated in modern culture. They're hidden, suppressed, and even pathologized. The school system labels you as a problem child. Workplaces quietly edge you out if you question the hierarchy. Even social media, which promises freedom of expression, pushes you towards sameness. Copy the trends, copy the influencers, copy the language of success. And yet, despite all that pressure, some people refuse to be tamed. They show signs that their psychology runs deeper, sharper, more nuanced. They see patterns others miss. They crave truth more than comfort. They wrestle with shadows that most people avoid. These are the people Jung would call rare types. And once you learn how to spot the signs, you'll realize just how different your wiring really is. Now here's the wake-up call. If you do have one of these rare personality types, you are walking a razor's edge. Because the very qualities that make you extraordinary are also the ones that can isolate you, exhaust you, or even make you sabotage your own potential. That's why Jung believed self-awareness wasn't optional. It was survival. Let me give you a modern example. Think about the workplace. Most people can coast. They can handle small talk, sit through repetitive meetings, and nod along to corporate jargon. But if you're rare, that feels like slow death. You see the emptiness behind the slogans, the futility of the busy work. And what happens? You start to withdraw. People whisper that you're not a team player. But the truth is, your mind is rejecting the script because it knows you're meant for something bigger than 9-to-5 obedience. Or look at relationships. Most people are fine with surface-level chatter, dating apps, and curated Instagram couples. But if you're rare, you crave something raw, something real. You'd rather sit in silence with someone who gets you than go through 100 fake smiles. But here's the catch. Most people can't go that deep. So you end up feeling alone, not because you're unlovable, but because your standards for connection are higher than the world's supply of authenticity. And this is where Jung's insights hit like a thunderbolt. He argued that rare personalities are often misunderstood not because they're defective, but because society itself is shallow. The shallow world punishes depth. The busy world punishes stillness. The loud world punishes reflection. So here's the question for you. Are you one of the rare few who sees through the illusion? Because in this video, we're going to uncover the 8 signs you might have a rare personality type, drawn straight from Jungian psychology but translated into modern life so you can see yourself clearly. And I'll warn you up front, some of these signs will feel uncomfortably true. They'll explain why you've struggled in school, why work drains you, why you feel like you don't belong in shallow social circles. But they'll also give you clarity, strength, and maybe even relief. Because once you understand these signs, you'll realize that your so-called weaknesses are actually signals of hidden power. So stay with me, because by the end of this, you might discover that you've been carrying a gift all along, one that society never wanted you to unwrap. Have you ever felt like you see the world in a way that most people around you simply can't or won't? You notice the little details in people's behavior, the subtle contradictions in their words, the way they say one thing with their lips but another with their eyes. You catch the hesitation before a fake smile, the nervous laugh that tries to cover up guilt, or the sudden silence when truth is avoided. And yet, you stay quiet, because when you speak, people look at you strangely. This is the burden of being rare in a shallow world. Most people, if we're honest, don't want to see too deeply. They want surface-level interactions, easy conversations, and simple emotions. They want to scroll, laugh, and move on. They want a world of masks where everyone plays their role, where lies are socially acceptable as long as they're convenient. But for you, and for anyone who has glimpsed what Carl Jung called the shadow of human nature, this world feels unbearably thin. And this creates a strange kind of loneliness, because you are wired to see through the masks, yet everyone else is busy protecting them. Imagine being in a crowded room where everyone is smiling, laughing, shaking hands, but you notice the knives behind their backs. Not literally, of course, but you see the envy, the competition, the unspoken resentments, the fakeness. On the surface, it's all light and easy. Underneath, it's tension, fear, and deceit. And you ask yourself, why doesn't anyone else see this? The truth is, many people do see, but they train themselves to look away. Because depth is heavy, it forces responsibility. It forces confrontation. It makes relationships uncomfortable, jobs unbearable, and society harder to participate in. So most people numb themselves, they choose ignorance, and this is where the frustration comes in. You are punished, not rewarded for clarity. The shallow are praised for being easygoing. The blind are loved for being optimistic. The naive are admired for their innocence. But the rare who point out what is real are often dismissed as too much, too intense, or negative. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. At work, the one who pretends to be busy is praised, while the one who exposes inefficiency is difficult. In relationships, the one who plays along with the fantasy is adored, while the one who confronts lies is toxic. In society, the one who fits the role is accepted, while the one who questions the role is strange. This is the tax you pay for seeing clearly. You are left feeling like an outsider in your own life, connected enough to notice, but alienated enough to be excluded. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But the path to that privilege is isolating because it means refusing to wear the mask everyone else accepts. And so you're caught in a trap. On one hand, you could join the shallow game, smile, nod, conform, pretend. It's easier. It gets you friends, opportunities, acceptance. On the other hand, you could embrace what you see, expose the lies, speak the truths, carry the weight of clarity. But it makes you rare, and rarity comes with loneliness. This is the exact problem. You are punished if you hide, and punished if you reveal. And here is where most people stop. They either collapse into the shallow crowd, or they isolate themselves entirely. But Jung suggests another way, a way to use the very power that isolates you as the same power that liberates you. That's where the 18 secrets of human nature come in. You can watch that video next. They are not just abstract theories. They are tools for survival in a shallow world. They allow you to see through others, not so that you drown in frustration, but so you can navigate, influence, and rise above the game being played. In other words, your curse can become your weapon. But first, you must fully admit to yourself that yes, you are rare, and yes, the world is shallow. Until you accept that reality without sugarcoating, you cannot master it. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in the next chapter. If you've ever looked around and wondered why people settle so easily, why they accept shallow approval instead of seeking something deeper, the answer isn't stupidity. It's a trap, carefully wired into human psychology. And unless you recognize it, you'll fall into it too. Carl Jung argued that the human mind is not built to stand alone. We are herd creatures. The collective unconscious, as he called it, is a vast network of inherited symbols, instincts, and expectations. This collective mind has only one demand: conformity. To belong is survival. To stand apart is risk. And in our age, conformity doesn't look like a village or a tribe. It looks like hashtags, filters, performance reviews, and applause metrics. The currency has changed, but the wiring hasn't. The trap begins with something innocent: the desire to be liked. From childhood, you were rewarded for fitting in, for following rules, for smiling even when you didn't mean it. Schools trained you to sit still, speak when spoken to, and earn gold stars. Society upgraded those gold stars into salaries, likes, and titles. Every system is designed to give you the dopamine hit of approval. And here's the twist: the brain doesn't distinguish between shallow praise and deep recognition. 100 meaningless likes can trick your nervous system into thinking you're fulfilled, when in reality your soul is starving. This is why rare people feel alienated. When you refuse to play the game, when you don't chase empty validation, you instantly see how hollow the majority has become. But the majority doesn't see it that way. They feel safe inside the trap because safety is easier than freedom. To be rare is to be naked in a world where everyone else hides behind masks. And masks are addictive. Jung called the mask the persona, the social role you wear to function in the world. At its best, it helps you navigate society. But at its worst, it becomes a prison. Think of the colleague who pretends to love their job while secretly dying inside. Or the friend who carefully curates every photo online to project an image they can't sustain in private. The persona grows roots, and suddenly they no longer remember who they were without it. This is the psychological trap. You either starve your true self in exchange for acceptance, or you risk rejection by being authentic. Most people choose the former. They live lives that look successful on the outside but feel meaningless within. They keep climbing ladders they never wanted to be on. They laugh at jokes they don't find funny. They date people they don't love. They fill silence with noise because silence forces them to hear the truth, that their life is borrowed, not chosen. The system wants you in this trap. It keeps the economy running. It keeps hierarchies stable. It keeps the masses predictable. And here's the real cruelty. When someone finally dares to step out, to break free, they're punished. The rare individual is mocked, shamed, dismissed as weird, arrogant, or out of touch. Jung knew this all too well. He himself was criticized for breaking from Freud, for daring to think beyond accepted psychology. But this is the price of refusing to wear the mask. And so, the frustration grows. You look around and see people living on autopilot, smiling through their masks, convinced they are free when they are anything but. You see how they've traded their authenticity for applause, and you wonder if maybe they're the lucky ones. Because ignorance is easier than awareness. But deep down, you know you can't go back. Once you see the trap, you can't unsee it. This is the cruel paradox of being rare in a shallow world. You are awake in a society that sleeps with its eyes open, and the more awake you become, the harder it is to play along. By now, you've probably felt the weight of what it means to resist conformity. But maybe you're still asking yourself, am I truly rare? Or am I just pretending to be different? Carl Jung warned that genuine individuality isn't about surface quirks or trying to stand out. True rarity comes from a deeper alignment with your authentic self, the part that refuses to sell out even when pressured. And there are certain unmistakable signs that reveal whether you carry this burden. Here are the 8. First, you're disgusted by shallow validation. For most people, a like, a compliment, or a meaningless reward is enough to keep them going. But for you, it feels empty. You can sense when someone's praise is hollow, and instead of satisfying you, it irritates you. This is a classic marker of rarity. Your system rejects counterfeit currency. You crave meaning, not applause. Second, silence speaks louder to you than noise. In a culture addicted to endless chatter, most people can't handle quiet. They fear what they'll hear in their own heads. But if you're rare, silence isn't a threat, it's fuel. You need time alone to recharge, to think, to separate your own voice from the noise of the crowd. Jung said that solitude is essential for individuation, the process of becoming yourself. If you can embrace it, you've already broken from the herd. Third, you see through masks instantly. You notice when people are pretending. You can tell when their laughter is forced, when their words don't match their energy. Most people take others at face value, but you spot the mask, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. This makes you both perceptive and dangerous, because you remind people of their own dishonesty simply by existing. Fourth, you refuse to play small. The world pressures you to shrink yourself, to fit in, to not cause trouble, to keep quiet. But inside, you feel restless when forced into boxes that don't fit. Whether it's in your work, relationships, or ambitions, you sense you're meant for more. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." If you can't accept a smaller role than your soul demands, you carry this privilege and the pain that comes with it. Fifth, you're attracted to depth. Others avoid. Most people skim the surface. They gossip. They consume quick entertainment. They distract themselves with trivialities. But you find yourself drawn to the uncomfortable questions. The nature of consciousness, the meaning of suffering, the reality of death. You want conversations that matter, even if they unsettle others. This thirst for depth is why shallow relationships and environments suffocate you. Sixth, you're often misunderstood, sometimes even feared. Here's the cost of seeing too much. People don't always know what to do with you. They label you as too intense, too serious, or even strange. Some secretly admire you, but others feel threatened because your very presence exposes the falseness of their lives. Being misunderstood isn't proof you're wrong. Often it's proof you're rare. Seventh, you can't stand hypocrisy. For the majority, hypocrisy is a survival tool. They'll say whatever it takes to fit in, even if it means contradicting themselves, but you can't tolerate it. You spot double standards instantly, and it makes your blood boil. This isn't about being perfect yourself, it's about refusing to accept dishonesty as normal. This moral allergy is another hallmark of rarity. Eighth, you feel a constant pull toward transformation. While most people cling to comfort and routine, you crave growth, even when it hurts. You feel restless when you stagnate, because some part of you knows you're here to evolve, not decay. This is the rarest trait of all, the refusal to stay asleep. Jung would say you are being pulled toward individuation, toward becoming fully human, while others are content to remain half-asleep versions of themselves. If you followed this far, one question lingers like a shadow. Is rarity something you're born with, or is it something the world carves into you? The truth, as Carl Jung and many other great thinkers hinted, is complicated. Some people arrive in this world with a temperament that resists the herd. From childhood, they reject authority, ask uncomfortable questions, and sense the masks that adults wear. They were never meant to fit in. Their very nature demands authenticity, no matter the cost. But for others, rarity is not a birthright. It's a scar. It is forged in the fire of experience. Pain strips away illusions. Betrayal forces them inward. Loss makes them dig deeper than the average person ever dares. And in that furnace, the ordinary personality dies and something rare is born. In both cases, the result is the same. A human being who cannot simply live on autopilot. Imagine a child who refuses to accept things just because that's how it's always been. They argue with teachers, question religion, and challenge their parents' worldview. These children are often labeled difficult, rebellious, or too much. But in reality, they're showing signs of innate rarity, a kind of DNA-level refusal to bow. Jung believed that some souls are born with a stronger drive toward individuation, the need to fully become oneself. For these people, conformity feels like death from the very beginning. But there's a price. Being born rare often means growing up misunderstood, alienated, and punished for seeing too much too soon. On the other hand, there are those who seemed ordinary once. They played along, they fit in, they followed the script, until life shattered the script. It could be heartbreak, it could be betrayal, It could be standing at the edge of despair and realizing that the system, the crowd, and even loved ones cannot save you. These moments are crucibles. Out of them emerge people who see the world differently, not because they always did, but because they had no choice. Marx once noted that suffering teaches lessons prosperity never can. Jung echoed this when he said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." The forged rare personality is proof of this. Their rarity isn't inherited, it's earned. So which are you? Born rare or forged rare? The answer matters less than you think. What matters is what you do with it now. Because either way, rarity is not a gift meant to be hoarded. It's a responsibility. Being rare means you have a vantage point others don't. You see through illusions. You sense the cracks in the facade. You feel the emptiness in shallow living. This awareness demands something from you. You can betray it by numbing yourself, by chasing validation, by selling out, or you can honor it by walking the harder path, the path of depth, integrity, and truth. Jung believed that society survives not because of the masses, but because of the few individuals who refuse to be swallowed by them. Whether you were born this way or made this way, you are one of those few. Rare people carry a paradox. They long to be understood, yet they will always be slightly alien to the majority. They feel the pain of isolation, yet they also recognize it as the price of clarity. Einstein, himself deeply misunderstood, once said, "The individual must not merely submit to the community, he must also be able to assert himself against it. Otherwise, society is doomed." That's the essence of rarity. It's not just about you, it's about keeping alive the fire of individuality in a world that constantly tries to snuff it out. So ask yourself one last time, did you arrive here with this fire already burning? Or did life strike the match? Either way, the flame is yours now. What you do with it will define not just your own story, but the story of everyone you touch. If these words resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these signs, if you felt the tension of living rare in a world built for the common, then don't let this reflection end here. Like this video to let others know you exist and that this kind of content matters. And when you're ready to go deeper, watch the next one. 18 Secrets of Human Nature by Carl Jung. How to read anyone instantly. Because understanding yourself is the first step. Understanding everyone else, that's where true power begins.